Welcome to this second day of the FuelChoices Summit. Glad to see you all here, and especially happy and honored to have the Secretary of Transportation of the United States, Anthony Fox, honoring us with his presence. Good morning, Mr. Fox. Good morning, everyone. This conference, as you know, is all about innovation, all about the future. And we begin today's program by hearing about some of the innovative technologies under development by Israeli startups. Hosting this session is a woman whose efforts play an instrumental role in promoting and marketing Israeli inventors and innovators. Please join me in welcoming the Executive Director of Startup Nation Central, Wendy Sinker.
Good morning, Secretary Fox, your distinguished delegation, friends. First of all, I'd like to thank Eyal Rosner, the Director and Chairman of the FuelChoices Initiative, for allowing us to share this amazing platform this morning. Secretary Fox, your keynote last night was inspired. I especially appreciated your comment about how Israelis push the boundaries of creativity. I think that captures the Israeli spirit, and it definitely captures the American spirit. We know that you're committed to innovation. I'm also told that you appreciate data. Yes? Correct? Good staff. We're going to open our program this morning by giving you both a flavor and some data behind the story of Israeli innovation. So first of all, the numbers create a lot of this story. There are currently about 5,000 startups in the ecosystem here. This amounts to one startup for every 2,000 people. It's the highest density of startups anywhere in the world. There's also a number of rankings that have been published in recent years. Too many to show here, but just to give you a flavor, this was put out by the World Economic Forum at Davos, and it's based on 5 different indexes. It includes things like the number of patents produced in a country, the amount of research published, access to capital, etc. So as you can see, Israel here is number 3. Diversity in innovation is another key part of the story. What you had at the very beginning was most of the innovation in the defense sector. And then that morphed into telecommunications and IT. And what's interesting is that the talent was able to also transition from one sector to another and exists in all these different verticals. This is a ranking put out by a company on the West Coast called Compass, and it ranks cities according to being a hub of entrepreneurship. Tel Aviv is ranked number 5. It's the first outside the US. The last time the report came out, Tel Aviv was number 2, but they actually changed their methodology so that it's based now on the absolute number of startups instead of the relative number. And the other interesting thing to know, I know that you're going to be in Jerusalem this week, is that the ecosystem in Jerusalem has gone on steroids in the last couple of years. And for the first time, the leaders in that community asked Compass to rank Jerusalem on its own. So Compass said, fine, but you're not going to make it in the top 20. And the leadership there said, that's okay. We want to be assessed on our own. So Jerusalem actually shows up in a separate category called Emerging Hubs of Entrepreneurship. And Time Magazine earlier this year published a report on the 5 emerging hubs of entrepreneurship in the world. Jerusalem was number 1. This is an interesting one based on OECD ranking. There's 2 points here. One is that Israel has the highest number of scientists and engineers and tech professionals per capita The actual number is 140 per 10,000 people. Also, the percentage of R&D, the percentage that is invested here, privately and publicly in R&D, is among the highest in the OECD. It's 4.38% of GDP. Just by way of comparison, the US, which also has among the highest investment in R&D, is 2.77% of GDP. This is another one that Israeli entrepreneurs like to point out, is that Israeli companies are attracting more venture per capita than any other country in the world, and here you can see the numbers. Investor confidence, this is an interesting one. It's a report that was put out by Deloitte last year. I think what's noteworthy here is that Israel, last year in 2014, ranked number 2. And just keep in mind that in the month of August, we had a military operation going on here. And the entrepreneurs were just refused to let that affect the actual output. This is not meant to be an eye test. This just gives you a feel for the range of investors that are invested in Israeli companies. It ranges from very early stage through growth stage. It's a little bit misleading, but we just did this to give you a feel for the diversity. It's actually 85% of the funding comes from abroad. And then in terms of growth and maturity, Israel is number 3 in the world after the US and China in terms of the number of companies that are actually registered on NASDAQ. The current number is 77. A lot of these multinationals are going to look familiar to you. There are some 300 R&D centers here that were set up by multinationals from around the world. But the fact is, the US has led the way. And it's been a win-win for both sides. What's happened is the American multinationals have come and set up here, and they've only gone deeper and deeper as time has gone by, which I think is a manifestation of it being beneficial to both countries. Typically they will come here, acquire an Israeli startup, and then that will be the basis for their R&D center. You could have a team of 8 people in an R&D center. You could have thousands of people as well. Here are some examples of M&As that have taken place in the last couple of years. Probably the one that will be most on your radar is Waze, which is no one here moves without Waze. It was acquired by Google. So if there's any one slide that is a kind of an X-ray for the Israeli ecosystem, it's going to be that slide. And I think looking at these, you're going to be familiar with the different components. Talked about the VC funds and the R&D centers. The 9 public universities is a big part of the story. It's the transfer of knowledge from academia to industry that keeps the wheels churning. And also the tech transfer offices, both of universities and hospitals, the bringing these brilliant ideas to commercialization is also a key part of this. Accelerators and incubators, both early stage support vehicles for entrepreneurs, but slightly differently defined here than in the US. Here, accelerators are by and large not for profit, privately run and privately funded. Incubators, on the other hand, are for-profit, I'm going to get your head spinning now, are for-profit, but do receive government funding from the Office of the Chief Scientist. So it's about an 85% government funding. So then the question that we get asked by delegations from around the world, really from the Far East to South America, is why? What is going on here that makes this place so entrepreneurial? If there's one slide, I think you said last night that you were halfway through the book of Startup Nation, if there's one slide that is a kind of a cheat sheet for the book, this is the slide. So what happens is the co-authors went to unpack these three basic elements that are going on here. And the first one is the question of government support. If you were to ask most entrepreneurs today, how is government policy vis-a-vis the innovation sector, most would say it's great because they stay out of my way. In fact, in the innovation sector, you have much less taxes, less regulation, and greater competition. But staying out of the way of the entrepreneurs was not always the case, because in the early 90s, you had the beginning of all of this innovation, but no investment to support it. So the government actually created a fund called the Yozma Fund, which gave matching funds for venture capitals to set up here. And that was really the beginnings of the VC scene. Immigrants as entrepreneurs, first of all, you have the story that by their very nature, immigrants coming to a strange country and a new language, and with not always the appropriate transition professionally, they are entrepreneurs. Secondly, in the early 90s, at the same time with all this burgeoning innovation, you had Israel absorbing just over 1 million immigrants, largely from the former Soviet Union. And that was a good amount of the talent pool that you find today in many, many, many of the startups and the incubators. One of the stories that my colleague in Baal told yesterday at a presentation is that Israel is made up, the Israeli population, of 70 nationalities. Jews who came from countries all over the world. The only thing they really had in common was this goal of building a country. The third piece is the IDF. And I'm going to say my qualifier here is that it's not a blessing to be in a country that requires mandatory conscription. On the other side of the coin is that the Army here is its own stage in life. In most other countries, you have education, K through 12, higher education, and then your career, the rest of your life. So here you have K through 12, 2 years if you're a woman and 3 years if you're a guy or more in the Army, then higher education, and then the rest of your life. And what it means is that these kids that are going into the Army are given authority and responsibility far beyond their years. It gives them what they don't get anywhere else in the education system, soft skills. Things like learning how to take risk, leadership development, strategic thinking, mission orientation. And the one that I like best as the mother of 3 teenage daughters is these kids come to understand that they're part of something larger than themselves. And I guess the last piece about the Army is more just on a factual point that many of the graduates or the alumni of the elite intelligence units and the tech units in the Army come to be the ones who are developing some of the most impressive startups. So what you have is a vibrant ecosystem, a tremendous amount of talent, and at the same time, a tiny market. What that means is that the minute Israeli startups open their doors, their conversation is with markets abroad. And part of what is a phenomenon about this conference that you're part of today is that you have 26 delegations from around the world that are part of that connectivity between all these other countries and the Israeli ecosystem. What I found very interesting about something that you said earlier this year at a forum in the U.S., you had a great quote, which is the government, in order to seed a culture of innovation, needs to give people enough rope to come back with different creative ideas. And the only twist I would add to that here, as part of the culture, is that it's very much acceptable, I'm not going to say embraced, but very much accepted that you're also given enough rope to sometimes fail. We have about 730 startups that open their doors every year, new startups, and the failure rate, quite similar to the US actually, is about 90%. So, with that, you now have some of the numbers, some of the data behind the phenomenon of Israeli innovation. I'm now going to turn it over to my colleague, Anna Phillips, who's going to introduce you to some of the real faces and stories and technologies behind the Startup Nation. Anna Phillips.
Thanks, Wendy. And wow, do we have 5 incredible entrepreneurs with us on stage today. Each entrepreneur is going to come on stage and give a rapid fire pitch, and we mean rapid fire. At the end of their 4 minutes, I will politely get them off stage. So without further ado, let's bring up Tommy Bar-Av of Argus Cybersecurity.
Hello everyone, my name is Tommy Bar-Av and I'm from Argus Cybersecurity. We develop cybersecurity solutions to promote the world of connected cars. By 2020, almost every car will be connected to the internet. And the benefits are endless, from productivity, financially, and safety. So, what is the problem?
Using a laptop, the hacker dialed the car's emergency communication system and transmitted a series of tones that, as the car's computer tried sorting it out, the hacker inserted an attack that reprogrammed the software, gaining total remote control. Oh my God.
The horn.
They're doing that?
They're doing the horn.
They could control the gas, the acceleration, they could control the braking.
That's right.
And they could do this from anywhere in the world.
So just stop at the cones here.
She thinks she's going to be able to stop right at those cones. Let's make sure that she can't, and she's going to drive right through them. We'll have complete control of that brake.
All right, here we go.
Oh, no, 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 no.
The brakes
I
didn't
cannot,
work,
oh
right?
my God. I can't operate the brakes at all. Oh my word. That is frightening. That is frightening.
And this is a real problem. And today, there are many ways to hack a vehicle, from cellular connectivity to multimedia systems, and even future protocols like vehicle-to-vehicle and vehicle-to-infrastructures protocols. And the motivations to do so are endless. It can range from cyber crimes and little pranks, simple pranks, and activism, and to, God forbid, terror events. So this is the reason that we introduced the Argus Intrusion Prevention System to the automotive industry. The Argus IPS blocks and monitors all the car network, the in-vehicle network, and also blocks any malicious message sent by the vehicle computers, and therefore we can stop future attacks and affecting the mission-critical components. We are providing this cyber dashboard, allowing car manufacturers to get an overview of their of the cyber health of their car fleets. They can analyze, detect, and respond in real time to cyber attacks. And we have a great team. with a very unique combination from cybersecurity experts from the Israeli equivalent of the NSA and seasoned automotive veterans from companies like GM, Daimler, Hitachi, and more. We also we have secured $30 million in funding so far from the leading investors in Israel, Magma, Vertex, and from strategic players like Allianz and Magna International, which is the second biggest T1 supplier worldwide. And also regulation is around the corner. US Senator Edward Murphy introduced a bill to Congress aiming to solve the car hacking problem. So after showing you the motivations, the attack vectors, and the cyber protection, will you buy your next car without August inside? Thank you very much, and drive home cyber safely. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy. I didn't even get to interrupt you, so well done. Next, I'd like to bring up Eitan Bachman, the Marketing Director of Freightos.
Hi, my name is Eitan, and I'm the head of marketing at Freightos, where we're bringing freight shipping online. How many of you have ever booked a flight online? Raise your hand. Great, thank you. I got all the information I need. Like any good startup, Freightos starts with a story. Our CEO, Tzvi Schreiber, used to own an electronics company where they had to regularly import goods from China to the United States. Every time they needed to import the goods by air or by ocean, it would take them days just to get freight quotes. And when they did get the freight quotes, they were so cryptic that they couldn't compare the quotes from multiple logistics providers. Which is a problem, because it meant that Tzvi was wasting a huge amount of money on expensive freight quotes, and he was wasting a huge amount of time. Now, when I asked you about airplane quotes, you can see that basically, right now, today, it's easy to get an online freight quote, and that's not a new situation. In the 1960s, American Airlines and IBM started working together on a system that would enable travel agents to book flights online from anywhere in the world. Since before Secretary Fox was even born, it's been possible to book flights online. That only reached consumers in 1995, but it's been around for a lot longer. However, if you look at an airplane, while the seats on the top of the airplane have been automated since 1960, the situation today is way, way back. Sorry. We're still manual in 2015. $19 trillion worth of goods are shipped around the world every single year, and it's still manual. It's a huge problem. It's a problem because every time that freight provider is creating a quote, it takes them a lot of time and it's inefficient. It's a problem for multinational corporations because every time a corporation wants to ship around the world to distribution centers, to warehouses, they're wasting time and getting inefficient freight quotes. It's a bigger problem for small and mid-sized companies, just like Tzvi Schreiber's old company, where they're overpaying on freight and eating into their profit margins. And it's a problem for e-commerce, because you can buy anything online around the world, but if it's over 70 pounds and doesn't fit in a UPS box, you're going to way, way overpay on courier shipping. Which is why Freightos is changing global commerce forever by bringing freight shipping online. And it's been a heck of a ride. In the past 3 years, we've gotten people very, very excited about our vision. We've raised over $25 million and now have over 100 employees, or nearly 100 employees, around the world working on this vision. But to buy freight online, you need to be able to sell freight online, which is why we started working with logistics providers, 3 of the top 15 logistics providers in the world and dozens of others, in order to help them automate their freight shipping. So far, we've automated over 40 million unique price points, and here's the real number. We've automated over 2.6 million instant freight quotes, saving a huge amount of time. But now that we're selling freight online, now that people can sell freight online, we're ready to help people buy freight online. So we're working with some gigantic companies like Marks & Spencer and Cisco Foods, in order to help them instantly come up with their routing and their pricing for freight quotes. We're working with small and mid-sized companies, just like Tzvi Schreiber's old company, with what's essentially an Expedia for freight shipping. Log online, instantly compare quotes by price, by duration, and eventually even carbon footprint. We're also working with e-commerce companies to make sure that anything, no matter the size, whether it's a couch or a bed or 500 chairs for a business, can instantly be priced online so that you can ship anything around the world. Global commerce is driven by international freight, and international freight until today was manual. Freightos is bringing it online to help companies around the world get shit done. Thank you.